Garrick has been nibbling on Delavian chocolates all morning long. The boy who cried wolf takes on a whole new meaning. And Odo goes on a date with a Flaxian in which they, smell perfumes, discuss their favorites and stuff. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello, hello.
My name is Ryan T. Husk. Today we are reviewing Season 3, Episode 20 of Deep Space Nine called Improbable Cause, directed by Mr.
Avery Brooks.
Yeah. I like the pause that you gave when I gave that last trivioid. You're like, is he just going to tell a story now? How are you today, man?
I'm doing good. Good.
Before we get too deep into this, please remember the easiest way to, and the cheapest and freest way to support this podcast is just click subscribe. Click the bell icon. Give us a comment. Give us a share. Give us a thumbs up. That stuff helps so much. It's totally free. We get it. You don't have a lot of money. It's tough right now, and there's stuff going on in the world outside in the whole quadrant. If you do have money, go ahead and send us $1 or $2 to patreon.com/the7th-rule. If you don't, but you just want to say, keep up the good work, guys, please subscribe and hit the bell icon for notifications. And with that, let's talk about Star Trek instead. What do you think? Did you like this one?
I did like this one.
We do like our Garrick stuff, don't we?
I love my Garrick stuff. He's so clever. And, one of the things that stood out to me was the language, the wordplay. There was a lot of really good writing.
Right, which is what I was going to say. I forgot to mention, written by Rene Echevarria. He deserves big kudos because I think we're going to be talking about all these masterfully written and delivered lines in this episode.
I think that's the highlight for me. And it's great because you have the actors that are able to get the dialogue out with the emphasis that's necessary. It's really Shakespearean, which is interesting how they start the entire thing on this Shakespeare, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Garrett kind of making a estimation about Shakespeare being predictable.
That's right. That's a good point. I hadn't really considered that they might have been choosing Julius Caesar, paying the homage to Julius Caesar in the opening scene because this episode was very Shakespearean. That's a good point.
Yeah, I felt that because, Shakespeare is so immersed in the language and the body of work is in the dialogue, it's in the language. And I felt like this is the same thing. So I really want to give a shout out to Rene Echevarria for masterfully crafting the language in this. And with Garrick in particular, it's very, at least in my estimation, it's difficult to conceive the lies in the way that he conceives these lies and have to cover them up, but make them feel truthful at the same time. It's really a delicate a balance that he does when he's delivering these scenes.
Right, and they always I've noticed they love to open up the opening scene with something that really has nothing to do with the actual episode, but it's more like trivia. It's more like setting the table before you know what's for dinner. It's just kind of like. Yeah. Dax and Sisko are playing chess, or Julian and Miles are playing darts, or something. It's just kind of like puts us in the life, and then we get all this trivia. Or Kira is telling Odo, the Diluvians are going to be flying in their shipment on the whatever. And he's like, oh, they always like to fly in on the whatever, and you just get a little slice of life, and then explosion happens, or a ship appears, or something like that. And this time it was Julius Caesar, which was really cool. Do you remember Julius Caesar at all? Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. I come to praise Caesar. Wait, no, I come to bury Caesar, not to praise him. I've already messed it up. It's this long, was it Antony's oration? It's a long, really cool monologue. Basically, he sounds like a lawyer, and he goes into this whole long thing. It's actually, I hadn't thought of it till you mentioned, but it's actually a really good choice for this script. And then they start talking about Garrick telling a doctor, you're going to get indigestion, which I thought was
Yeah.
funny.
That was funny. That was funny.
Yeah.
Garrett giving medical advice. Um, Also, shout out to the wardrobe in this particular episode because Garrick has some really fancy designs.
Yes,
He's
there it is.
styling. Yeah, I mean, the whole thing is, and he has multiple wardrobe changes, so he's not just rocking one outfit the whole time. He switches it up, and it's a good look on him.
You know, there was a point where I think was it Tain or was it the Romulan? First of all, the Romulan calling Garrick a cobbler was just freaking hilarious. I don't know why, but that crack. He's a cobbler, right? Whatever.
Yeah, I wrote that down. It was hilarious. Mr. Garrick, a cobbler, I believe.
And I don't remember if it was the Romulan or if it was Tain, but somebody said, is this one of the outfits you have made or put together? Is this one of your works? And I remember thinking, that's so rude to say. And I looked, I was like, actually, no, that's a really cool outfit. He should claim that. That's pretty badass.
Yeah.
And this is, if I remember correctly, this is the outfit that Garrick wears in his official action figure. So for those of you that are listening in, please comment and confirm this. But if I remember correctly, this is an iconic outfit because the official, Star Trek action figures, this is the outfit he's wearing.
Interesting.
That's a good one. It's a fun one.
Yeah, that's a good one. I had a question about this Tain character. Is he somebody we've seen before?
Yeah, Taint.
No, Tain.
Oh, there's no T at the end? Okay. Anyway. Right. What's his first name? Perineum Taint. No, it's Enabrin Tain. No. Enabrin Tain. We saw him maybe 5 to 10 episodes ago, and it was really a wasted thing where it was when Garrick was dying and he says all of them were true, especially the lies kind of line, which was awesome. I think it was called The Wire. It was either that one or another, or one in between that and now. And Tain just shows up. Yeah, I think it was The Wire. Tain just shows up in the last 5 or 10 minutes, pops into Deep Space Nine saying, oh yeah, it's because of this or because of that. And then he disappears. And it kind of felt contrived. It felt like they could have done something better with that character, but that's who he was.
Yeah.
I think that's the only other time that we've seen him so far.
Yeah, he definitely looked familiar. And I said, I know I've seen this guy before. I just didn't see him in the context or in the relationship capacity that he had in this episode. So it seemed unusual.
And he was only in like 1 or 2 scenes last time. And it was not perfect, I thought. But this was a good, real intro for him, and we're sure to see him more in the next episode.
Yeah, what I really liked about this episode was the interaction between Garrick and Odo.
Yeah.
I thought the two of them really danced well with the, verbal jousting back and forth, trying to analyze the other's psyche, essentially.
Yeah. No, you're right. We've seen a lot of Julian and O'Brien. We've seen a lot of Julian and Garrick. We've seen a lot of Odo and Quark. But we haven't seen Odo and Garrick, and that was, and it was really interesting because we do get that sense when they start kind of sparring a little bit. We go, oh, we haven't really seen this tennis match yet,
And it was fantastic. I mean, the two of them are just the best. I mean, they're as good as it gets at what they do. And, and again, the dialogue, I mean, there was the line where Odo says, congratulations, your power of deductions are truly astonishing.
Yeah, I wrote that down too. Yeah.
And it was just so sarcastic and just such a blow, And of course, Garrick takes it in stride, and he has his own clever stuff to say in response. And then Odo responds to that and says, I'm not interested in debating your uselessness to me.
Right, which is too bad because Garrick is a master debater.
Yeah, yeah, he is master.
He's very good at it.
He's very good at it. Yes. But no, I thought that was the meat of the episode. That was what made it just really great. It was the back and forth between the two of them. Each kind of, it was Garrick keeping a secret and Odo prying the door open into that world, into the secret. And then obviously what we're really getting here is the beginning of the Dominion War. We're seeing
I know, it's
the
so cool.
seed starting to grow. We're seeing what's happening. And I think that's also something that's interesting for me, is saying, okay, what is about to unfold here?
Yeah, and it's a great thing to bring up. I actually hadn't really focused too much on that, but you're right, because it feels like this is where Deep Space Nine starts to take a turn, because this is the first large scale storyline. This is, the Federation meets the Cardassian Obsidian Order and the Romulan Tal Shiar, and it's going to mix in with the Dominion and the Founders. I mean, this is the first episode of, as the galaxy turns or whatever, like it's like a whole, it's not just, the Defiant going to the Gamma Quadrant, or the, Deep Space Nine versus the Romulans or Klingons. It's the whole neighborhood going into the Gamma Quadrant, basically. So it's really the first nugget that starts the avalanche.
Yeah, and we're seeing what our equivalent of a world war starting to manifest. This is more of like an intergalactic war with all these different sides involved. So I like seeing the culminations of how this is becoming. It's great how they're tying Garrick's past with the Obsidian Order, which obviously now that fast forward is going to become relevant in future Star Trek and what we're seeing now with Picard, as well as the Tal Shiar, another element that's going to become more relevant as Star Trek continues to air episodes. But I think that we're seeing the real roots of these kinds of things. I love digging into the minutia of it. I like seeing the past history of what Garrick's about. The cobbler / tailor / spy. And I just really loved the language. I thought the language was great. And there were a few director things that I actually pointed out too that I thought were little touches that I believe Avery added to the mix.
Really? I want to hear about that right now. But before we do that, I do want to just say, just to finish up what you were saying, it'll be interesting in a few episodes or a few seasons to look back at this point and say, what would have happened? How would this have been different had this meeting between Enabran Tain and the Tal Shiar not happened? Like, how did this, how did that pebble make that avalanche happen? And what would that avalanche have happened if not for that pebble? But what did you notice? Sorry, go ahead.
That's an interesting thing. I like the way you're thinking there, and that's that's really a crucial. That's why I think this is a crucial moment. We're seeing something that's like, and it completely kind of haphazardly happens, right? So it doesn't really. The way the story unveils and kind of reveals itself is really this haphazard. Somebody's trying to kill Garrick, and then it's like way bigger than Garrick, than an assassination attempt on Garrick. What's going on, right?
Right. At first, it just seemed like it's a whodunit, and Odo is going to grumble his way to figure it out.
Right. And so I like the way that they kind of, the expose of how it's being exposed, how it's unraveling in front of our face. And also the very close ties between what Garrick and his past, as well as Odo's past and his connection to the Founders. And you could see he had an emotional attachment to hearing about the Founders being the focal of attack. So those were all at play for me. But going back to what I said earlier about Avery and the directing,
Right.
there were a few things that I thought stood out to me, and I believe that there are choices that were made by Avery in where he wanted to place the camera and why. One of the things was the meeting where Odo was interrogating the merchant with the perfumes.
Yeah. What he was what was he?
Yeah.
A flaxian. He was a flaxseed.
It was a flaxseedian. So I liked that scene for number one.
It's very smart.
It was such a clever thing. And actually, I wrote down here, Odo's faces were hilarious to me.
Yes.
They were hilarious because he would smell something and he's like, and what is this you say? And he'd say, oh, that's spicy. Spicy. It was just, it was Columbo-ish.
I was just going to say, this was Columbo right here, He was harnessing his inner Columbo chi.
Yeah. And the interest he was taking in the smells and the scents and like, oh, that's interesting. The way he was doing it was so clever, I thought, and it was just a joy to watch. It was playful, it was clever, and it was also getting to the root of what he was trying to get to. So it was all of those things all wrapped in one. But the beginning of that shot was started with a camera sweep over the table, which was lit, and not all the tables have this kind of a lighting to it, but this particular table had a lighting underneath the surface of it, and the camera was kind of sliding over the table as it was approaching the two of them and this box on the table. So just a small thing, but I know that's how Avery wanted to push into that scene.
Was that at the very beginning? Is that what established the scene at the very beginning, right? That's something that directors, and I bet you when Avery thought of that, he was like, oh, this is going to be awesome. This is going to look so cool.
Yeah, and he probably saw the table and said, wow, this table, is great. It looks beautiful. It's lit.
Kudos to the art department.
The art department and the set designers that are coming up with that stuff. And Avery said, hey, let's make this a focal point. This is awesome. Let's use the space that we have around us and, come in on this particular interrogation scene, starting it with this rolling shot towards the two of them. So I thought that was great. Just a small little touch, but it just adds to the confinement of the space and the setting up of the scene. And there were also other directorial choices that I believe Avery took in this episode. For example, when Odo goes to visit his Cardassian friend in the cave, somebody that owes him a favor.
You know what that character name was on IMDb? Informant. Caveman. That would have been better. Yeah, just informant. So this poor guy gets up at 3 a.m. to put all this makeup on, memorizing all these beautiful tit-for-tat Shakespearean lines, stands up looking ominously, gets some close-ups of his eyes, looking so all this stuff, and the character name is Informant. Like, oh, come on, give him a cool Cardassian name, man. Call him like Halleck or something, Give him something cool.
Yeah, something cool. I have to agree with that. And I've been in that same situation myself as an actor where I play, skateboarder number 3, and it's just
it's embarrassing, man. It looks it looks bad on. Yeah, I had the same thing with was it The Young and the Restless? I was some SEC agent that was doing, these things and talking with this guy and handing him I barely remember. It was a few years ago. And my character name was SEC agent. I'm like, okay, I mean, that really could, as far as your IMDb or your resume is concerned, that could be a background role. That could be like, we have 20 SEC agents running. You're all SEC agent. Okay, cool. But
yeah, I mean, also you tell your friends. I mean, the first
Tell your friends.
The first time I got a chance to be in a movie was the movie Beethoven, which was about that dog.
Yeah, no way.
Yeah, so that was my motion picture debut. It was an Ivan Reitman film. It was a big deal, and they said, "Oh yeah, you got the job," And I'm actually one of the first kids that sees Beethoven in the beginning of the movie when he's in the window of the doggy store, and uh, it was me and a couple of other kids, and they just had me as skateboarder number 2 or 3, And so, so I go to the premiere, and all my friends are like, "Oh, you're in this movie," and they're like, "Well, what character do you play?" And I'm like, "I'm a skateboarder." "Yeah, what's your character's name?" Skateboarder number 3, and it comes that way in the titles, when the credits are rolling. So you're like, it's a little bit of a disservice. I'm sure they can come up with a better way to get that done, at least for the confidence of the actor who's playing the role.
I'll tell you one thing. As somebody that came up the ranks from the very bottom of the bottom myself, as a producer, I never give people those kinds of character names. Like when we did Renegades, and we had a lot of background, a lot of featured people playing various aliens throughout the bar and doing all these things, and really giving their hearts out to this because it's hot, it's summer, they're wearing masks, they're wearing makeup, they're on their releases, on their actor releases, I said, if you have a character name that you want, go right ahead. So people got as creative as they wanted because they were these unknown alien races. So they could pick anything. Mm-hmm. They could say, I'm Glabdor, or I'm the Red Knight of Kilodram, or, go, who knows? Because who's going to say they're not, So that way people got real character names that reflected the amount of work and effort that they put in. And I encourage anybody that produces anything or directs anything to do the same. Even ADs can do that, because a lot of times directors are too busy thinking about it. But sometimes an AD or a second AD can just be like, hey, can we give these guys a character name? And nobody's going to say no. They're always going to say, yeah, sure. So I hope people do that more.
I think at least as an option, out of just humanity, out of respect, so that you don't feel so reduced to just like guy standing there,
Dog lover.
Yeah. It's like don't reduce me that far. Give me some,
right.
humanity. Just as a matter of respect. But yes, this guy who you just mentioned, who was in playing this Cardassian, the caveman,
the cave dweller. Hey,
the cave dweller.
We got to take our break, so we'll talk about cave dweller number 1 on the other side. Very quickly, let's give a shout out to Melissa Longo's website, Walking Art Made by Melissa. Tons of good stuff. We'll put that in the comments section below in the description box. And also your sister's website, Abyssinian Kiosk, that we love so much. Guys, make sure you give them some love. We'll put both websites in the description box below because it's really good stuff. And it's people within the family. Melissa's Aaron's wife. Meron is Meron,
yes.
Cirroc's sister. Not only are they part of the family, but the stuff they make is super quality. It's awesome. Your sister's stuff is so artsy and so cool and so creative, and it's like rich with like cultural history from Eastern Africa, which is so cool, because how much of that do we actually see here? Very little. And it's so rich in history from thousands of years. It's just amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So please check it out.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, definitely. We'll send those links. And just check it out, guys. No pressure.
Yeah, and we appreciate all the support. I mean, it really helps a ton when our people are ordering and liking the merchandise, and liking what they get. So it's a real satisfaction. So thank you all for the support.
Awesome. All right, we'll see you on the other side on The Seventh Rule. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to The Seventh Rule. We are reviewing Season 3, Episode 20, Improbable Cause. My note says Improbably Cause, but I bet it's Improbable Cause. Directed by Avery Brooks, written by Renee Echevarria, and we're loving it.
Yeah.
Very quickly, our trivioids of the day, the ones that didn't quite make the cutting room floor, and some that did. Garrick has been nibbling on Delavian chocolates all morning. We know that. Sounds good, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Belgian chocolates are the best, I think. Julian suggests that Garrick and a Tellurian while away the afternoon, which was a funny line. The atmospheric moisture of Yolosians dissolves carpeting, so that's more of a PSA than anything else, guys. Garrick misplaced a Nausicaa's wedding suit. Odo goes on a date with the Flaxian. We covered that one. A Romulan calls Garrick a cobbler. Oh, I guess it was a Romulan. It's put in my own notes. And the boy who cried wolf takes on a whole new meaning, which was one of the best, just very, very quickly, because we want to get back to the cave dweller.
Yeah. Yes.
One of the best lines in the history of Star Trek, again, belongs to Garrick, when he says, "Never tell the same lie twice," which is just,
yes.
I mean, let's come back to it. Let's finish with the cave dweller, and then we'll get back to that. Anyway, so what were we saying?
I totally, I mean, we can get to the cave dweller, but I do like that line. I wrote it down in my notes as well.
Let's finish the cave dweller first, because we've been there's some people that are just like, I want to hear about that. You're just teasing all day. I hate you guys.
No, you did a big job of touching on the things that I thought were highlighted directorially by Avery. One of the things was the camera shot of Odo being low and him being up high, and kind of the ominous, not actually meeting each other type of look that he put into that scene. And he also did the move where you talked about earlier, where just his eyes were highlighted, so we never really got to see his full face.
Right.
So those were the things. Those are director choices. You know, he says, we want to do it like this. I want him to be here, high and low. We'll cross back in the frame, but
it's a beautiful shot.
It's a beautiful shot. It adds to the drama, to the suspense, and to the, you know. So I just wanted to highlight that as little things that Avery plugged in just to stylize a very talkative episode. So a lot of words in this episode and less action. So you have to kind of add these things to kind of spice it up a little bit.
And another bit of the blocking of that scene was, if you'll notice, Odo was not even facing the cave dweller. He was, he's looking here and the guy's over here, and Odo's looking away. And my first thought was, okay, this was actually my first thought about the directing was, okay, the director, Avery, is doing this because it looks cool, maybe more so than what would actually happen in real life. Because in real life, you would actually turn and look at the guy and talk to them. But upon further examination, you think, well, maybe not. Maybe the cave guy wants anonymity. That's the key. Don't fricking look at me, or I'm not going to be your informant anymore. So that's the whole rule. I'll pop up in the corner, but don't you dare look at me. And so then, I don't know if that's in the script. I don't know if that's a director's choice, but it certainly worked with the shot, and it can be explained in universe. So that was really cool. Like, there's a lot of depth to that, scene, even though and which they need to do in a very word heavy scene, as you mentioned. So it's all words. It's all words. So they have to take interesting shots and angles and lighting to keep our attention a lot of times.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that I thought was interesting decisions that he made. I had the same thought as you, which is, why isn't he facing him? And then I thought, well, maybe the cave is designed in such a way that sound travels any which way and you don't know which way to look.
Right. That was the first thing I thought too, was maybe it just like an echo chamber,
Right. And then, of course, the reason that you just gave, I thought it was pretty accurate, which is, hey, I don't want you to look me in the eye. A bank robber comes to rob a bank and you're standing there. The last thing you're going to be doing is studying his face and taking notes, like,
be like, hi, bank robber. Let me.
Yeah. Is that a birthmark or a mole? Or,
no. Wait, stand in the light so I could get a good picture.
Yeah, no, it's not going to happen like that. So you would actually do the same thing, kind of avert your eyes, because I don't want to, be the guy that's the subject of your attention. But I also wanted to say that the Boy Who Cried Wolf line, which I thought was just a great story, it was just a nice little. They throw these little gems in there. It's a story within a story,
Beautiful.
and it actually is consistent with Bashir and Garrick's exchanging of books, and that's
Yeah,
one of the things that they've been doing throughout the show is
you're right.
exchanging books. You read this, you should read this.
The Cardassian tragedy, which is like that the same tragedy happens over and over and over again, and they're like, yum 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 yum, so good.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when you feed a dog, and the dog's like, cool, dog food again. Like,
yeah, and that's what I thought was interesting about this Boy Who Cried Wolf story is that he went through this whole elaborate explanation of why he doesn't like Shakespeare. One of the greatest authors in history. Except when you give him a Boy Who Cried Wolf story, he was all over that, though.
That's an interesting dichotomy. You're right. Like, it's just total opposite. Like this, and the first thing he says before Julian is even done with the story, he says, "Oh, he called the people over, and then when they all came, he said that the wolf had left." And it was like two lines in, and Garrett goes, "Clever lad, charming story." He's like, "I wasn't finished, Garrick." I love that.
More to the story. Yeah, I loved it. I loved it. And then Garrick, of course, is just in his own brilliant way says, "Well, clearly that's not the moral of the story. Clearly the moral of the story is you should never tell the same lie twice." And that I just thought that's the typical Garrick, his perspective, the way he thinks. It's just beautiful.
Because it is something that you can say that's not the intended moral, but you cannot disprove that you're like, okay, that's true too.
That's how he sees it. That's his perspective, and he's been very successful at not telling the same lie twice. So it's worked for him. But I actually I thought you'd have a little bit different. I have one on my list for one of your show openers.
My trivioids. I do miss a lot.
I actually wrote this one down, and I'm almost certain that I thought you were going to say it because it was such a low-hanging fruit, and I was like, this is going to come up. And that is the line where Garrick asked Bashir to eat his isolinear rod. And I was...
Why did you...
Oh, you're not touching that one. That's
you thought that was low-hanging, huh? The Garrick's rod was low-hanging fruit.
See? You see, that was perfect. That was all.
No, you're right. You're right. That was definitely a thing.
No, but it was so hilarious because he goes into detail. He's like, go into here. Above is a false wall,
panel,
cabinet panel. Go in there and find this and do this, and I'm like, what is he telling him to do? Like, does he want him to blow up his quarters too? And then it turns out he's just telling this great joke about... I want you
to eat it. Just really go to town on it. Just what's funny is, because I didn't remember that, and when Garrick was starting to explain it to Julian, my first thought, because my brain's always making dumb jokes, my first thought was that he should say, "Eat it." And then he did, and I was like, awesome, you said the joke. God bless you, Garrick.
I was like, they wrote this for Ryan. I know he's going to say it. So, all right.
No, but you're right. I love that. That was, as long as we're talking about funny moments, there was another funny moment that was just, and when I read it again just now, it makes me smile. And that was when Garrick comes into Constable Odo's office, and Odo goes, I have bad news for you. Major Kira has an airtight alibi."
Yes.
Because that was in reference to earlier when he was saying that Kira was that was funny. He says, well, it could be anybody that wanted to kill me. I misplaced a Nausicaa's wedding suit, or the Eurydian that I owe money to, or Major Kira. Anyway, that was Odo.
That was
great. Odo. That was a beautiful Odo line.
Well, Odo had another line where it's great that Odo is able to deliver his humor without any humor. It's just so great. The other one was where he says, considering those uniforms, you'd think they'd appreciate a decent tailor, and that's what.
Yes, that was another good one.
And that was a line to Sisko from Odo, you know. And I thought, wow, that's a great line, you know. Odo has a good sense of humor here.
Right, because that's like a line that would come from normally like Garrick or Quark, you know, but Odo is not known for his biting humor, but that was a biting biting humor. The line before with, you know, Major Kira has an airtight alibi, that's a zing, that's a little jab in the stomach.
Yep.
I mean, he's having a little bit of fun. He's like, it's Garrick, I can with him, you know, I can mess with this guy. What's Garrick gonna do?
And then Odo does another line where he says, "You think I'm going to leave you alone and look over my security files?"
Right.
You know, it's like it's just a little thing, but it's just I like that Odo is having more fun with it. You know, he said he has fun in his own kind of way. But you know, the name of this episode, I had it as "Blame It on the Tain."
And there was a character named Mila. So we just need a vanilla and we're all set. Right? Blame it on the Tain. That's brilliant.
Tain.
With Mila and vanilla. I guess
Mila.
Anyway. Vanilla ice and Mila.
Sorry, guys. Sorry about that one. I couldn't help it.
Don't apologize. People are loving this. If I know anything about anything, people like that title, Blame It on the Tain. But yeah, you remember Mila? That was the female Cardassian named Mila, who was Tain's housekeeper and confidant for 30 years, and maybe more.
Yeah, with the gray hair and a very gracious look to her. I also like this when Tain and kind of goes into his battle with Odo. And there was a moment where he says to him, "Still the wry observer of humanoid folly." I mean, just the way you say that word in that sentence in general, the wry observer of humanoid folly, that's Shakespeare to me.
Very Shakespeare, absolutely. Say it again.
He says, "Oh, I see you're still the wry observer of humanoid folly." That was Tain to Odo.
It almost sounds like it's an iambic pentameter too, like Shakespeare is.
Yeah, but it's just rich with just the language is so rich, and I really liked it. The other thing I liked was the interaction with Tain and Garrick when they were dissecting each other's approach. I think Garrick said something like, "Oh, I see you're running around here with your pointed ears, friends." Right?
And he called it a racial slur.
Right.
I was like, you guys would not last in today's society if you think that's a racial slur.
Right.
You guys got it pretty good right now.
but it was great because that was a moment in which Tain shows you how Garrick approaches situations. He put out a question that puts Tain in an awkward position. If I defend them, then it's clear that I'm with them. If I don't defend them, then I've let this racial slur hang.
Right. It's kind of like lawyer speak. When lawyer will come up to somebody and say, "Have you stopped beating your wife?" And you're like, wait, if I say no, then that means I didn't stop beating my wife. But if I say yes, that means I'm like, no, I don't beat my, how do you answer that?
Right.
And his way of not falling for it is not answering it, but going to somebody else and explaining why this is such an interesting, explaining it to Odo, but really explaining it to us, saying, you see, this is a clever tactic, and this is what he did. So his answer was to dissect the question rather than answer the question. And it was great too. It totally works.
Which is great. Which is Garrick's methodology being used back against him, right? That's what Garrick does.
Where do you think he learned it?
Right. So I love this. It was very clever. they've talked about supposition and supposing, and Garrick flips it back on Odo at some point when they're in the shuttlecraft. I think Garrick says, Odo says, "You're part of the Obsidian Order. Why don't you just admit it and tell me?" And Garrick flips it back and says, "Well, you have emotions and you care about somebody. Who is it? Tell me who it is."
We know
And
who it is.
Odo, we know who it is, but Odo says, "I wouldn't tell you." That was his answer. "I wouldn't tell you. Even if I did have these feelings for somebody, I wouldn't tell you." Which is exactly Garrick's answer about the Obsidian Order. "Even if I was part of it, I wouldn't tell you."
Right.
And that's just a clever way in which he flips it back on him, gets him to say what his own answer would be to Odo. And so basically getting Odo to realize, yeah, I wouldn't tell you. I don't expect you to tell me. And don't expect me to tell you anything about my dealings with the Obsidian Order.
Right. What they did, the writers, is they gave Odo more to work with than just the usual grumbling, solving crimes, solving murder mysteries. They're giving him a little bit more into where, like, he's enjoying this. He's having fun. You know, it's like game respects game, game recognizes game. And he's like, I don't like Garrick, but I respect his wordplay. I respect his intellect. And I want to let him know that I can do that too. You know, like, Odo is very much sparring with Garrick to show him, like, hey, you're not getting anything over me. Just like what he does with Quark, right? So they gave him a lot more to work with, because it wouldn't have worked nearly as well if he was just the by the books, you know, problem solver and whatever. You know, the episode still would have been good, but what really was great about it was that they let Odo come up to Garrick's level, you know, mentally with the same level of cunning.
Yes, and they really revealed that in the moment, I believe, when Odo reveals to Garrick that he knows that he blew up his own shop.
Yep.
And that's the moment where Garrick looks at him like, "Oh, wow, this guy figured me out."
Yeah, I'm playing with a pro here.
Yeah, like, this guy's good, you know? And I think there was a moment where even Odo says, "Oh, that look on your face. I haven't seen that before. What is that? Surprise?"
Yeah, I missed that line. That's funny.
Yeah, he says that. He's like, "That look on your face. I haven't seen that before. Is that surprise?" It was just perfect, and just the battling. Like I said, the wordplay. I can't give enough credit to Renee, who did an excellent job of just not only telling the story about the Tal Shiar and the Obsidian Order and the cloaked Romulan ship that's about to start an intergalactic war, right? But he also gives us these moments of softness, of interplay between the relationship building between characters. He gives us a little bit of the toughness of the characters that we expect, and the deceit, where you don't really know who's telling the truth, really, until it kind of gets slowly revealed to you. And still, we have so much more. And I was a little bit disappointed that this is a two-parter.
Right.
It is a two-parter, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they don't label it as part one.
Right.
Part
this
two.
is when Deep Space Nine started making their two-parters have different titles. So there's no more part one and part two. You just find out, oh, this is clearly a two-parter, because we're just meeting Tain in the last 7 minutes of the episode. I think we're running out of time. You know, you kind of start like looking like, wait, what's happening here? But yeah, the titles don't give it away anymore.
Now, do we know why they made that decision to do that, or is that they're saying, hey, we're going to serialize everything anyways at this point, so let's stop giving parts, because eventually, we're going to have part 26 of the same.
Oh, right. Show. Yeah, that's the thing too. You're right. Is if once it becomes fully serialized, then basically what they do is, season 9, or Deep Space Nine, season 3, part 15, or whatever is really what it boils down to.
Right.
I think it started with did they do that with past tense?
Yeah, past tense was past tense 1 and 2,
Right.
from
And
what I remember.
the search was 1 and 2. I think this is the first two-parter that doesn't have part 1 and part 2. Yeah.
Right, right. So midway through the third season, almost towards the end, but let's say, you know, definitely past the halfway point.
Right.
Uh, we're really seeing DS9 start to dig into some of the themes that are going to be carrying it on through 4, 5, and 6 and 7, right?
Yeah. I mean, this is really where Deep Space Nine and the huge overarching Dominion Wars arc really starts. It's right around here, the first pebble.
Mhm. Yeah. I think it's they've done a really good job of building this up so far, and this episode really, I mean, it just stood out to me as a really great episode. Once again, because of the acting, it wasn't so much special effects. The action wasn't that great. The story was good, but the acting really carried the whole thing, and that's the beauty of having people that are Shakespearean actors
Right.
performing this kind of stuff, because this is
Exactly.
exactly what they're qualified to do.
And we know a lot of the actors are Shakespearean. We know Armin is. We know Renee was. I'm assuming Avery was, right?
Avery was, yeah.
I mean, Andy Robinson clearly is, even though I don't remember him specifically saying that. We just can tell that
I'm
he is.
pretty sure. Yeah.
So these guys know what they're doing. When somebody's writing something that is in any way, and in this case, significantly influenced by Shakespeare, they feel right at home.
Absolutely. And we got the Romulans too, which they don't really come around too much, but they really do. When they do come around, they're like really short, and clearly they were lying to Sisko when he asked about, did you send them over to kill Garrick and the
Well,
cobbler?
did he talk to a Tal Shiar agent, or was it just the regular Tal Shiar Star Empire? Because if that's the case, then she maybe wouldn't know. Because this is Tal Shiar and Obsidian Order, which are like the CIA spy agencies, So the Cardassian Central Command doesn't necessarily know what the Obsidian Order is doing, and the Romulan Star Empire doesn't necessarily know what Tal Shiar is doing, and we don't know what anybody's doing. We're just along for the ride.
Yeah. I like that when she said he's a cobbler, Mr. Garrick, a cobbler, I believe. Sisko corrected her and said a tailor, and she said, "Oh, I'll update the records." So
Yeah. I'll make a note of it. Yeah,
I'll make a note of that next time we send somebody to kill him.
Yeah. While he's hemming pants, I think it was Tain that said, "You can go back to hemming pants if you want. If you were a writer, you'd be Ernest Hemming Pants." That one was an accident.
All right, sure.
So we only have a couple minutes left. Any final thoughts on it?
Well, not necessarily final thoughts, but there was a lot of tech in this episode, and there was just so much tech. The pheromonic sensors that were used to ignite the explosion, and there were there were moments where, like, okay, tech, get it all out, and let's move past this, because I know this is not what the story's about.
Yeah, they're not. They're never too excited about that, as we know. I would guess that the next episode won't have that anymore, because most of this episode was all the setup. It's kind of a little reminiscent of Reunifications Part 1 and Reunification Parts 1 and 2 and Next Generation, where Picard is looking into something with Romulans, and at the very end there's the big reveal, Spock is there, and then it's to be continued kind of thing. This is similar to that, but it's not like Tain shows up, and then it's to be continued because we don't know enough about him for that to be the big cliffhanger. So that he has to talk to Garrick, and Garrick says, "You know what? I'm tired of hemming pants. I'll do it. I'm back." He says,
"I'm back." Yeah, yeah. There was also a moment there. I mean, Garrick shows some of the most courageous things sometimes in this show. He shows a lot of courage, and he actually proves himself not to be as bad as what he pretends that he is, if that makes any sense.
Sure.
But there was a moment at the end of this where Tain says, "All right, fine, you're free to go. I believe you." And it was crazy because I believed him too when Garrick was like, I came here to save you. I didn't, what's her name? Mila told me that you were, to save you. And I made a promise, and that's why I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
And Tain says, "You know what? I believe you. All right, fine, you're free to go. But the changeling's got to stay, right?"
Yeah. And you'll be missing out on a pretty big opportunity, but whatever. You want to go sell shoes, Al Bundy, you go right ahead.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, and I haven't seen the second part of this episode or where it's going to go, but Garrick could have saved his own ass in that exact moment and said, "All right, cool, I'm out of here. Odo, so nice to know you. Good on you. You figure your way out. I'm gone." And he didn't do that. And I'm pretty sure that him agreeing to say I'm back, when this is all speculation now because I haven't seen what's going to happen.
Right.
But was for a larger picture of saving Odo, because he knows that Odo is going to die if he leaves him behind.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of leaving it behind, we're going to have to leave this episode behind until the free-for-all. We'll talk about it a little bit more on the free-for-all because there's obviously so much more to talk about. Actually, when you were talking about saving Garrick's ass, I was kind of looking at the picture of Garrick, and I was wondering if they have those ear ridges on like their butt too, maybe, or their hips or something peculiar. They got to have some weird physiology, those guys, because they have the neck things. Anyway, I'm sure everybody was wondering that anyway. I'm just voicing it.
That's a common thing.
Voicing everybody's thoughts. But we'll talk about it a little bit more on the free-for-all very quickly. We don't know who's going to be at the free-for-all, but it's going to be a lot of fun. I can tell you that we've got a very special thanks to Carmen Shamwell, PJ Tomas, TJ Jackson-Bey, Bill Victor Arucan, Yvette Blackmon, Dennis Koch, Homer Frizzell, Eve England, and Marie Segal, Titus Mohler, Tim Baum, and Rex A. Wood. We'll see you on the other side in like...
Hey, what's the IMDb on this one? I know you have it.
I'm so sorry. You're right. Jake Sisko guesses the IMDb rating. Go ahead.
7.3.
Wow.
7.3 to 7.5. I'm going there.
This is the first time you've ever been way off. 8.7. I thought the same thing. I was thinking, it might be a higher rating than what we would expect because people are rating it on the two-parter whole. Like maybe the two-parter is really good, and then when people go back 20 years after watching this awesome two-parter and they rate it on IMDb, they give the two-parter really good reviews. But I agree with you in that I don't know if it's an 8.7 because there's not a ton that happens. It's very interesting. There's great dialogue, but you're right. Yeah, I agree with you. I thought the same thing when I saw it.
That's pretty high.
We'll ask these guys on the other side on the seventh rule. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the seventh rule. This is the free-for-all. We got Cirroc Lofton. Of course, we've got Commander Homer Frizzell, Mr. Rex A. Wood, Melissa Longo, Titus Mohler, and TJ Jackson-Bey out in Missouri, throwing up the sarcastic Vulcan salute. So we're finishing up our review of Improbable Cause. Really cool episode. If you guys have any final thoughts on that, let's talk about them before we get to the crazy question of the day. I know Homer does because he's been nodding.
I do.
Let's hear it.
Yeah. First off, you're very good at picking up on body language. So this scene behind me here is when they first get on to the Romulan ship, and this blurry image is a guy walking by. I was trying to get it without anybody, but since he's there, it's a nice segue into the new Romulan Tel Shiar uniforms. instead of the hi, I'm from the 80s look.
Right.
They've got something that's a little bit more sleek, and it makes me think that maybe the script was written before they actually had these costumes ready to go, because there's a reference where Odo is talking about them after having them on screen and talking with them, says they need a good tailor or something like that. Mm-hmm. So I think those two weren't quite totally in sync. This episode also, aside from all the costume stuff, which is just fun, you really get a good sense of Garrick and Odo and the relationship and how they're like, yet there's some sort of respect for where each of them is coming from. Mm-hmm. So it was nice. It was nice to see that. And I know where it's going next episode. So it's really just, wow, such a great job setting things up for the next episode.
By the way, awesome shirt, dude. Let's see it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
It's our Lower Decks shirt.
This is the Lower Decks shirt. Yeah. I took the plunge and I signed up for the subscription. So prepare yourselves to see a whole bunch of Lower Decks shirts on this guy.
All right.
I'm going to need another drawer or two.
Oh, they have underwear?
Ooh, okay.
No, not
You're off to a good start. Good start. Usually that's plural, but
draws.
Yeah, draws.
Drawers.
Those are draws.
Drawers. That's Kentucky talk there. That's Kentucky talk.
Yeah, I didn't want to get into how different people say drawers.
Got the draws on?
But we could.
No, and I would like this to be stricken from the record. I apologize.
It's too late for that.
I think it should
I don't
be
think
stricken
I've
from
ever
the
seen
record
you
as
walk
well.
back a joke, Ryan.
Yeah, well, I didn't know that it was going to have legs and walk out on its own. I mean, I don't definitely.
Nice, TJ.
Oh wow, wow.
We all just anyway. Let's move on.
Yeah,
Titus. Thank you, Titus.
Yeah, it's an episode I really love. It's sometimes like sometimes I think about this when I finish the series. If I want to dive back into an episode that just feels like it's in the middle of things, this one is one of the ones that jumps to mind, because the Dominion ball has been rolling a little bit, and this is one of the first big storylines, and it and to me, and I just feel like the first half of this two-parter especially is just it reveals a lot of great stuff.
You broke up for just a second there. Can you start over just for like a second? But I think you were saying one of the most important parts of it. Can you just say that again?
Yeah, it's just it's a great episode, just revealing Garrick's character. To me, the line that always comes to my mind is from Odo. "You blew up your own shop, Garrick." That is just such an amazing moment. And then I believe Avery directed this episode, right. And some really nice stuff. I was just thinking about this image behind you. There's one, I think, at the end where Tain and Garrick are shaking hands, and Odo is sandwiched in between them, thinking, "Oh my, what is going on?" And that same image, I believe, is echoed, I think, in the second part as well. But anyway, yeah, I just love this episode as one of the first big developments in the whole Dominion arc, and very revealing. Yeah, that's awesome.
Good job, Homer.
Very revealing of Garrick's character and Odo's.
Titus and I planned that out.
Yeah,
Titus. What was that thing behind Odo? That it was like the neon thing on the wall.
Looks like Saved by the Bell.
Yeah, it looks like I don't know what it looks like, but it looked like some kind of symbol, and it was like centered behind his head. So when they ended the shot, it was a close on Odo with that thing kind of accentuating his head.
That has to be the Romulan logo. I mean, I can't tell from this. I'll have to go back through, but that little bit that we do see looks like, say, the top left part of it.
Titus, you echoed a lot of sentiments that Cirroc and I had just mentioned, especially like, we did talk about Avery for sure. And, we talked about Garrick and Odo kind of really going at it and having their fun. I don't know how I would describe that, but they're definitely not quite frenemies like Odo and Quark, but there's some mutual respect there, and they're both kind of having fun sparring there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There's this unspoken thing like, yes, I'm in the obsidian order, but I'm not just going to give that to you. I enjoyed that dynamic as well. A good example, and this might have already been mentioned, is the scene in the security office where he's calling Mila, mm-hmm. and Odo is looking at his encryption code, and Garrick says, "I thought you might appreciate that on an aesthetic level."
Yeah,
like we don't talk about this, but that I got the skills. And another one is also in the security office where he's having Garrick look over this list of people that have been on the station, and Garrick's like, okay, you can go now. I got this. And Odo's like, I'm not going to let you sit here and look through security files. He's like, what makes you think I hadn't already? And there's just like this beat before he makes it a joke. Like, no, I'm serious. I've looked through your security files. Yep. So I enjoy that unspoken kind of thing. They both know it's true, but if they ever admitted it, they both be in some trouble.
Girl, it's true. Now that's that's a callback to our previous segment where Cirroc, what were you saying?
Blame it on the Tain. Blame it on the Tain.
So now girl, it's true. So
sorry guys. Sorry I had to hear that, Homer.
And here we are.
No points.
No points. And may God have mercy on your soul.
And this has to be some of Andy Robinson's. This is some quality work. It's probably all already been said, but this is definitely some of my best Garrick work. Never tell the same lie twice. Just doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah. And I feel like the exchange, there's sort of an extended exchange between Garrick and Odo on the runabout, when they're both kind of feeling each other out, and I think there's a very important exchange where Garrick asks Odo, "Are you trying to say I have no sense of honor?" And Odo just says, "Well, that remains to be seen." And Garrick agrees, yes. So I feel like by the series' end, Garrick really does have a sense of honor. I think it was really on display, especially in the final arc. He really seemed like, some of the humanity of the people he'd been around with, like Bashir, had rubbed off on him. And I just think it's interesting that they're kind of admitting that that's a question right here at this point, early point in the show. Mm-hmm. Yes. Do you have a sense of honor, Garrick, or are you just an honorless spy?
I think that sets up the next episode too, and what he does there.
Melissa Rex, I don't know if you've seen the episode recently. I know Melissa just got off work, so she's always a trooper for us. She just comes straight home from work, doesn't even eat a raspberry, and already gets right back on the show for us.
Cookies.
Cookies. Okay.
But no raspberries, right?
No raspberries yet.
All right. Good.
Those are the
I would agree with everybody else in things that were said on it. It's been a while since I've seen it, absolutely, but I would definitely agree with the work with Garrick and what's going on in this episode along with Odo, and just the interaction between those two. It's a great episode. I need to go back and watch it again because I haven't in a while. But yeah, absolutely, it's a good episode.
So
I also think that they have something in common. I think that Garrick and Odo are similar in the respect that they hide their true emotions. Like, you don't really know how they truly feel about something, right? And I think that's one of the things that shows in this particular episode. They both have that in common. There's a mystery to them that they don't want revealed. They prefer to hold on to that mystery. And I thought that was best explained when Odo in that scene was trying to get Garrick to say that he was part of the Obsidian Order and to admit it and say, hey, come out clean and tell me. And Garrick's response was, do you have emotions for somebody? Did you have feelings for people? Is there somebody that you have feelings for? And Odo's answer was, if I did, I wouldn't tell you, right? Which is exactly Garrick's philosophy on the Obsidian Order. If I did, I wouldn't tell you. So I thought that's what they share in common so much.
That was like the first time that I think that he actually went on the offensive. Like usually he's taking what somebody says and then kind of like dancing around it and turning it back to them. But he just went after him there.
Right. As if he knew that he had feelings for Kira for some reason, right? It was just like he kept pressing the right button.
The best, worst kept secret.
I'll tell you, if somebody knows, it's Quark. You could see Quark saying like, oh, I've seen the way you look at her, or where, you get, now if Garrick were to notice, he would say like, I've noticed that your breath speeds up, or, your eyes twitch around her, or whatever it is, or you get bubbles.
You bubble, yeah.
I've noticed you bubble around her.
You get all LaCroix.
Is that your isolinear rod I see?
Whoa.
Cirroc.
Sorry.
Line?
I had to beat that.
Over it.
It's an actual line from the episode, guys. It's actually in the episode.
Right. And we won't get into more detail as to what Cirroc said about that line.
Yeah, that can go.
Yeah, you can beat that out, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we can edit that out.
Hey everybody, Susan Gruner has joined us. I don't know if she's going to join us by video. Can you hear us, Susan? Not quite yet, but she may.
Great.
So let's have a quick question, or do you guys want to get to that question next week? Because we've got so much more to talk about with this episode. What do you guys think?
There's a lot in this episode, but I actually wanted to go back to what Titus said earlier about this being the starting point. If you want to go back and kind of get right into the meat of where DS9 kind of starts to get really interesting, I thought that was interesting that you said that this is the place where you would go back to and say, all right, start from here.
Yeah, it definitely it feels like a really epic two-parter, and it develops the exact way I love these stories too. A very small piece of a much larger puzzle, as Odo's source said, and of course we kind of see that comes into full bloom towards the end of the episode, and the battle happens in the next episode. But yeah, I do. I feel like this is really important for the whole show's storyline.
Right. It's kind of where it all, it's kind of like the first, we're saying, it's kind of like the pebble that starts the avalanche in a lot of ways. And we kind of gave it some thought as to, 2 seasons from now, looking back on this episode and think, how would the next 2 seasons have, played out differently had it not been for what happened here in this episode.
And it's funny that you said 2 seasons from now, Ryan, because I think of this as having a sister two-parter in season 5, in
Really?
Purgatory's Shadow and by Inferno's Light, which of course also involves Garrick and Tain trying to get to Tain due to the fallout of this two-parter.
That's an interesting point. We'll have to come back to that in a couple seasons.
Yes. And I remember Ryan saying, when we were reviewing it, that this may be the first time they stopped labeling part 1 and part 2 of two-parters. That this might be the point at which they're just like, well, we're serializing things, so we don't need to put a part 1, part 2 on it. It is, right?
It is. I remember Ira saying that. This was one of the favorites that I was looking forward to. It's also a good example of how they sprinkle, references a few episodes back, because I don't know if it's been mentioned, but and there's only one hint in this episode where they mention the Orias system, and that goes back to the episode "The Defiant" with Thomas Riker. and he heard
good
about
knowledge.
all of these ships that they were building, and he was trying to find out what was going on. And the system he was going to was the Orias system, and that's where the Obsidian Order is like, no, you're not going in there at all. And it's because they had this thing cooking.
They were building a fleet. You are so right, TJ. I forgot about that. They were building a fleet. Yeah.
So it kind of made me wonder where old Tomas was, if we ever went and got him broke out so that he could switch on Kira some more.
They brought up the Orias system when Garrick sets course for Tain, looking for Tain. Is that what they bring it up?
I think Tain mentions it probably somewhere in that scene behind Ryan and Homer there. And it's just obscure. It's not like he spotlights it. It just comes out of his mouth and he goes on about, that's where his I guess that's where his secret house was in the Unefra system. But he mentions they were doing this thing in the Orias system, and then he just goes on with whatever he was telling Garrett.
TJ, do you watch with the captioning at the bottom?
I do.
Me too. That's how I knew what Unefra was. I was like, what the heck did they say? So when you said that, I was like, all right, you're using that trick, because that's not an easy one to remember otherwise.
Yeah. Good tip. Good tip.
Sounds like an allergy medicine.
Yeah, Unefra side effects include dizziness, headache,
nausea, possibly death,
Diarrhea.
Yes, and it causes mesothelioma.
Yeah.
Also, before we go, we've got a few minutes left, but Melissa, do you want to show off your shirt?
Oh, sure.
We were talking about, right before the break, we were talking about the shirts that you do make, which are at Walking Art made by Melissa. We'll be including that below. Sadly, I don't think this is one.
What?
This is not one you've made, right?
No, I did make this.
Oh, you did? Okay, good. Well, then please show it off even more then.
All right, if I can.
Tag, you're it. Tag, you're it.
You're it. Yeah.
Hashtag, you're it. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Pound. Okay.
Little
Pound tag.
little lips. Yeah. Pound tag.
Pound tag.
But yeah.
Number sign, you're it.
What are the new things you're working on? You're working on a whole bunch of new stuff for the shop,
so
right?
Much stuff right now going on. We've got new shirts coming and new bags coming, new masks, new jewelry. So there's a lot happening.
Awesome. So check that out. And also, before we go, we'd be remiss if we didn't show off Rex's awesome uniform as well. Look at that.
Look at that. Commander Rex A. Wood.
Right.
You say Rex Daywood?
A-Wood, yeah.
Oh, A-Wood. I thought he said they. I was like, where did you put the they in?
They would. They would.
They
I'm
would.
not that clever.
Well,
but really quickly, I just wanted to say something. This is a tie-in from this particular episode to the episode we're about to review, which is the Lower Decks episode. But in both episodes, the idea of pheromones came up, which I just thought was hilarious, because in this particular episode, the bomb that was activated in Garrick's shop was triggered by a pheromone sensor that the Flaxians use, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then when we watch Lower Decks, we're going to find out, the pheromones that were being emitted by Boimler were because of this parasite. So here we had two episodes completely separated by decades, and yet the word and terminology of pheromones came up in both. I just thought it was kind of funny.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting timing.
Yeah,
also, a little known fact, Flaxians are great egg substitutes if you're making pancakes.
Had no idea. Yes.
Oh my.
Yes.
I think they're the only species that have seeds instead of regular, humanoid reproduction.
Yes. And their
Definitely want you
jackets
on
are
my
very
trivia team.
popular. Yes, their jackets are very popular with the
Okay.
police and military.
Okay.
Yes.
See? There are worse jokes. Thank you, Cirroc.
See? Thank you.
Yeah.
I can
At some point.
I see one bad joke and I raise it too.
Wow.
Instead of one up, that's a one down.
Yeah.
One down.
We're all hanging out at the bottom. But anyway, we'll end on that note. I think it was a B minor. And we will thank you. Maybe we should have ended 2 minutes ago.
Yeah. When you see everybody's head goes
I
down,
appreciate that
that's
one.
Good time to end.
Yeah.
when
Poor
everybody's head
Susan.
goes down. it starts
Unfortunately,
shaking.
she can't hear this, I don't think.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
actually, maybe that's okay.
Yes, you might be the luckiest person on the show.
Yeah, I think you're right.
We will save the question. All right. Well, I'll give you guys the question. This will be the first time in the history of the seventh rule that we'll give the question a week in advance. So that, because I remember Heather used to always yell at us about not having time to prepare for the question.
That's half of the fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You should. So,
That's the
So
fun.
we do it or
I think
not do it?
TJ should drop off and you tell us.
Yeah.
No, I still want the hint.
Okay. So
Can't
the
leave us
hint.
like this.
Okay. So I was going to say, just give us an actor or actress that has never played a Cardassian that you would like to play a Cardassian. Everybody that's watching this video in the comments section, feel free to give us your suggestions. But to hear ours, you're just going to have to watch next week. Sorry.
Nice.
Wow.
To be
Cliffhanger.
continued.
It's a
Yeah.
two-parter.
So I can see it now. Everybody's writing Polly Shore.
That's your
Oh,
answer.
man, you took my answer, man. All right. Somebody else.
All right. Well, thanks very much, guys. We will see you soon. Also, remember, every Thursday, we're also reviewing new Star Trek, which will be Lower Decks. And in a few weeks, it'll be Discovery. Homer's wearing his Lower Decks shirt. So thanks very much. This has been Homer Frizzell, Titus Mohler, TJ Jackson-Bey, Commander Rex A. Wood, Melissa Longo, and of course, Commander Homer Frizzell. I know you're Commander too, but Rex is wearing the 3 pips. Cirroc Lofton, Susan Gruner, and my name is Ryan T. Husk for Aron Eisenberg and everybody that is also cool, but not quite as cool. My name is Ryan T. Husk. Always remember the 7th rule. Did I say Melissa Longo too? And Melissa Longo. Always remember the 7th rule.